Hello and welcome. I am your host of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Author Karen E. Osborne. I have five novels out. The latest is Justice for Emerson. I am so glad that you're here. This is a space for readers and writers to come together and talk about books. It is always a pleasure to invite back someone who not only did I interview before a couple of times, but who is a writing friend. And so I'm just so glad to say hello again to Pamela Taylor. Hey, Pam.
Hi, Karen, and it's absolute delight for me to be back. I always enjoy our conversations.
Yes, in person, online, because we get to
Abs-
talk to each other in both in both settings, which is very nice and very special. Well, we have a really exciting book that just came out that we want to talk to you about today, all of you about today. This woman is so prolific. She has so many books. I want to be her when I grow up, but I'm running out of time. So show us the gorgeous, gorgeous cover of your new book.
I'm trying to get it up here without the
Here's good.
reflection
There's
on
good.
it. How's that?
The Abbot, the Knight, and the King. And this is volume 10, right? In the Second Son Chronicles series. So let's start there. Give us a sense of the series because some people may not have, I don't know why, but some of you may have missed Pamela's first two interviews. So give us, our audience, a sense of the series.
Let's set in the 14th century, and the main character is the second son uh, of the second son of the king. So he's twice removed from any possibility of inheritance. But his grandfather believes he has a special destiny, and what that destiny is still rather shrouded in mystery. The grandfather knows that young Alfred is special, but he doesn't know what the future is going to bring for him. And so the first nine volumes of the series follow Alfred on his journey of discovery of what that destiny is and all the obstacles that present themselves as he tries to realize what the destiny is. In some senses, it's very much a family saga, but it's definitely historical fiction because the setting is so far back in time and everything is authentic to the time period. Now, the volume that just released, the one that I just showed you the cover of, that is in fact a prequel. It takes you back before Alfred's story of his journey began to begin to reveal what led up to it. Um, and it was quite an interesting experience for me because I'd never written a prequel before. I've only ever written linearly from point A to point B or M or Z or whatever it turns out to be. And so going back and starting earlier
Yeah.
was really an interesting experience.
Yeah. So let's stay there just for a minute, because I know there's also something very intriguing about this book, in addition to being a prequel. But let's stay with the prequel for a minute. So it would seem to me that in some ways that's limiting for you as a writer, because certain things have happened that you can't change because the other books are out there. Was it challenging to um, make the story an exciting story, but you're constrained by the other nine volumes?
It was really very challenging in ways I hadn't expected, Karen. The um, I certainly am dealing with a much earlier set of characters because I'm dealing with Alfred's grandfather, And that's, of course, two
Mm.
generations back from Alfred himself. And the thing that I found the most challenging was that you have to, as you say, not, you have to stick with the truth that you've already revealed in the first 9 volumes. And you have to have some allusions to that. But you also have to be very careful to avoid any spoilers. Because if someone has not read the previous 9 volumes and they're just now coming to the Chronicles, they may make the personal decision that they want to start from the very beginning and start with the prequel and then work their way through to where Alfred finds himself at the end of volume 9. So you have to stay true to what you've told, make some vague connections, but also not produce any spoilers. And in some respect, the challenge was part of what made it fun to write.
Yes, because we do love learning new things and trying new things as writers. So there was also something that you've done a little differently with this book. So you're writing a prequel, and then what's this other intriguing part of the book?
The twist, right?
Hmm.
Um, at some point, as I was thinking about the challenges and trying to decide where I was going to go next, I had one of those uh, struck you in the shower moments of, oh my goodness, I could do this and make it even more interesting.
Mm.
So, what I wound up doing is actually making the main line of the story something that happens 200 years later, a postquel, if you will. And that's the through line that ties together all of the prequel parts. Um, so it's a prequel wrapped in a postquel. And if you'd like for me to read the introductory 2 pages, I can give your audience some idea of how that works.
Yes.
Um, this is from the correspondence of Bertrand Dubois. He and his brothers are printers. And this letter is dated 11th of June, 1580, which of course is well beyond the 14th century. Henri, I've found them at last, just as our grandmother said I would. Every volume exactly as noted in Queen Richenda's letters from her cousin so long ago. Well, every volume save one. Even if we're able to publish only the 8 I've managed to locate so far, we'll be the envy of every printing house in 2 kingdoms. Our fortune is made, Henri. No doubt we will finally win us the royal warrant our father so coveted. How I wish he had lived to see this day. Oh, I can hear your familiar voice of caution even at this distance, Henri. Don't let your enthusiasm get ahead of events, brother. Remember, riches are not guaranteed until the coins are in the till, and prestige cannot be assumed but must be granted by others. Let me assure you I have anticipated your concern. Immediately upon my arrival in the capital city, I began making the rounds of the booksellers. Surely, if we were wrong, if someone had already found and printed them, surely there would be a copy somewhere here. I scoured every shelf of every shop, but took care not to reveal the true object of my search. Even even as I asked about inventory that might not be on display, I found nothing, which I can admit to you, my dear brother, was quite exhilarating. Thus began my quest, and what a quest it has been. So the brother printers are the main through line, and they are searching for the 9 volumes to be printed.
Wow. Wow. Because some of them think that it was a myth, right? Some people thought that the Chronicles were really a myth and didn't exist, but these brothers believe that the Chronicles exist.
And they have found what they believe is proof in their grandmother's letters.
I love that. That is so cool. That is exciting. What a fresh take too on a very long living series, a series that's been going on. When did the first book come out? What year was that?
That was summer of 2018. And the
2018.
second one was a year after that. Then the remaining seven followed in fairly quick succession.
Yeah.
There was one in the pandemic year. I had the joy that so many authors had of having a book scheduled for release right at the onset of the pandemic. Welcome to the club, right? Um, and then beginning in December of that year, the rest of them came out on about a 7 or 8 month cycle. So
Wow.
it was over a
So
period of years.
so what is your writing style like? I mean, your work style, your style as a writer. Do you give yourself so many hours every day to write? How do you schedule that so that you can keep up with that pace?
Um, I wish I were as disciplined as you're describing. I have talked to authors who say, I make myself write 2 pages or 4 pages or 1,000 words every day before I allow myself to do anything else. And I find that if I try to rigidly apply a schedule like that, I'm forcing myself and the writing comes out sounding forced. And so I tend to let things percolate. I call it writing in my head.
Hmm.
I mean, the mantra is a writer should write every day, but I count what I do in my head as writing. So I let the story percolate a bit in my head when it needs to. And then often I can sit down when I've got something that just is ready to flow and I can turn out 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 words a day when things have congealed to the point where I know exactly where it's going and exactly the words that are coming next and exactly what the characters have told me what they're going to do and now they're bugging me to get it down on paper.
This is such a wonderful validation for my approach as well. Because I write in my head. I write in my head all the time, and my characters talk to me, and I can't sit down and write until we've got, since
Mhm.
since I understand what they're trying to tell me and where they want to go and what do they want to do. Yes, indeed. Although my son is much more disciplined. He's one of those write every day people. He has a big job and he's a family, but he forces himself to write at least 15 minutes every day. And I have another writer friend who's doing so well, Rachel Housewell Hall. Oh my goodness, she has so many books out and they're making the bestseller list. And she wakes up early in the morning and she uses those first hours when the house is still asleep every day to write. So everybody's different, right? Everybody's approach is unique to them.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Ken Follett and Bernard
Mm.
Cornwell. Of course, being historical fiction, naturally I would be. But it's so funny to watch them. Ken Follett has a class on BBC Maestro where he's very structured and he's teaching people, how to approach writing a novel. You start with your outline, and I have my whole outline done, and everything about the plot is before I write the first word of the first chapter. Cornwell is exactly the opposite. I had the privilege of doing an email interview with him at one point when I was writing for a writers community doing a column. And I asked, one of my questions to him was, do your characters talk to you? Do you plan ahead? How do you? He said, I wish I could plan. I have to wait till the characters talk to me. And sometimes I'm at chapter 17 and something happens that I have to go back and redo chapter 3. And that seems like repeating work. but it's what works for me.
I'm with him.
Me too. 100%.
Yeah, that's what I do. My grandson, who's also a writer, my son's son, who's also a writer, and he says, "I don't know how you do that, Grandma. You have to have an outline. It's so important." Well, no, not everybody needs an outline. I was three-quarters of the way through Justice for Emerson. My husband was reading it as as I was writing it, and he said, "Wow, Karen, this is so good because I can't figure out who the murderer is." And I said, I don't know who it is. It has not revealed himself to me yet. Anyway, back to you. This is all about you. So,
Oh, but I'm so pleased about the success you're having with Justice for Emerson. Congratulations.
thank you so much. So, as you built this world, right? So you researched and built this world. When you were writing the new book, did you have to do a lot of new research? Was there lots of, you're 200 years ahead, right?
Um, Actually, that was in some ways somewhat liberating because there were fewer constraints. I mean, the printing press had been invented, for heaven's sake. In the original volumes, everything was handwritten by a scribe somewhere. So we had the printing press and we had somewhat easier travel and easier modes of communication. So, in many ways, that part of it um, was, as I said before, fairly liberating. And also, I have already done a whole lot of reading, both for pleasure and when I was studying at university in the Tudor period. And so by that 200 years or so just really kind of fit very nicely for stuff that I already knew. So that made it
Yeah,
easy.
that's cool. Yes, yes, yes. Well, before we're going to move next to you making some book recommendations, but I'd love us to just see the cover just one more time.
Absolutely.
This is the book, people, The Abbot, the Knight, and the King. And it's volume 10, and it's a prequel of the Second Son Chronicles by Pamela Taylor. Woo! All right, Pam, what have you been reading lately that you can share with our audience?
Well, I don't think the audience is all that interested in Jonathan Sumption's 4-volume study of the Hundred Years' War. So let's go to something a little bit more entertaining. Um, there have been several things that have come out. Certainly, every one of Karen's books that I have read are definitely worth picking up. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend that you do. Um, I actually read something very different from Alison Weir. I mean, she usually writes about Henry VIII and his wives and Elizabeth I and all of that. Well, she finally did one on Cardinal Wolsey, and
Ah,
it is actually quite good. Um, I read this some time back, and but it's a really fun book, and I love to recommend it. Um, this is Bernard Cornwell again. It's called Fools and Mortals, and the narrator is Shakespeare's younger brother, Richard, who actually existed, but very little is known about him. So Cornwell got to create the character, and it is just a fun book if you enjoy historical things.
I
If
love
you
that.
want, yeah, if you want something a little more modern, Follett actually, this was a couple of years back he did this, but I've only recently caught up with it. Um, he went back to his roots in thrillers and he wrote a book
Mm.
called Never. And it was one of those I could not put it down.
Yes, I read that as well. First, it was lovely. I love his historical fiction, but it was wonderful because met him when he was writing thrillers, and Never is so well done, and it's so relevant to today. And it was really, that was a terrific read. I recommend that too, people.
I'm so envious that you got to meet him. Congratulations. Let's see what else. There's some other books that have come out from author friends of mine that are definitely fascinating. If you haven't read either of the Lunch Tales books from Lucille
Yes,
Guarino,
those are very good.
they're very good. Um, Bob Rothman has a new one out. He writes legal thrillers. Um, and his most recent one, The Shark's Protege, is very
Yes.
good.
I interviewed him. You can find him, everybody. You can find him. Just put Bob Rothman in the search, and you'll see the interview about the Sharks protege. So thank you, Pamela. This is so fun. And we didn't work this out together. This all just was spontaneous, just so you know. We were talking about other things before we started recording, and that's a good book. That's a really good book. And Sue Ellen was terrific as well. So you and I share a lot in good taste in books, which is
I like to think that.
yes. So, everybody, you know the drill. You can find Pamela's books, all of them, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local independent bookstore. You can find them in the library. And if you don't see them on the shelf, all you have to do is ask, and they will get them. And we hope that you will do that if you don't see them, that you will ask for the book. But if they wanted to be in touch with you, if they wanted to be on your mailing list and find out more about what's going on with you, how could they find you?
Well, the easiest way is to go to my website, which is pamela-taylor.com. My name with a dash between the first and last.com. And you can find out about the books there. You can find out a little more detailed biography. You can sign up for my newsletter, and my promise to all my subscribers is I won't spam you. Every 4 to 6 weeks at the most.
Nice.
Yeah. And on my website, I also have the trailers for the Second Son Chronicles series and for my standalone books. And some of those are getting up on Amazon now. And on Amazon, they're available in print, audio, and ebook. And if you happen to have Kindle Unlimited, they're available that way as well. And as Karen says, if you go to your local bookshop, you want something you can hold in your hand. If it's not there, they can order it.
They can order it for you. And thank goodness people still like buying books that they can hold in their hand. I've run out of space, but I have to prioritize having a little bit more space for all the books that I like to buy. Well, Pam, it has been such a pleasure, as it always is, whenever I get a chance to chat with you. And thank you so much for coming. And Pam and I thank all of you for watching. And I hope that we will see you next week on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Have a great week, everybody. Bye.